The Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month just got a whole lot more interesting, with President Joe Biden saying that he is not going to run for a second term, and subsequently saying that he is endorsing his Vice President Kamala Harris. But with Biden stepping out of the race, remaining in office until the end of his term, what does that mean for the delegates who were for Biden? This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Go to thecentersquare.com for some of the latest headlines. Subscribe to the newsletter there, but wake up every morning with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily. To talk more about this is a delegate for President Joe Biden, State Representative Shawn Ford, a Democrat out of Chicago. Representative, of course, the news cycle has just been pretty incredible. Everything from just over a week ago, former President Donald Trump and the assassination attempt, and then the RNC happening all last week where the center square was on the ground. Now we've got the news of Biden stepping out of the race, endorsing Kamala Harris, leading into next month's Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where the center square will be on hand to report out. So looking forward to connecting with you there. But here we are now, the morning after President Biden said that he is not going to be in the race. Your initial thoughts there?
Well, like every Democrat and anyone that loves the country will salute Joe Biden for making the decision, putting country over self. I mean, how many times have you seen an individual walk away from this much power? So, so we must salute him for that. And following up and being loyal to his running mate, whether she's going to be the presumptive nominee or not. I think that Joe Biden, the people voted for him and they voted for her. So I give him a lot of credit.
Representative, what do you think led to this? Was it internal pressure from the Democratic Party? Was it health issues? What kind of insight can you provide there?
Well, I would tell you, in my opinion, if Democrats came together and supported Joe Biden and Kamala Harris' ticket, united, I think we still could have beat Donald Trump. But I think that the Democrats as a whole really wanted to be careful and make sure that we had a ticket that was strong and youthful. And now we got that. And I think that if the Democrats could come together around one person and we could put a ticket together to beat Donald Trump, I think we would do well. And to your question, how did it get there? I think Joe Biden, being the most senior member in politics, understood what was at stake. And I don't think that the pressure to force him out was his number one reason. I think he had a chance to think about it and reflect and think about what's best for the country. And I don't think he felt that he had the stamina to continue a race for the next 4 months or 3.5 months. And that's why he backed out. If he had the stamina, he felt that he could do it, it wouldn't matter what all of the naysayers said. I think President Joe Biden would have pushed on and possibly won.
Representative Shawn Ford with us, a Biden delegate. Now, of course, the president in his announcement, a subsequent announcement came out and he endorsed the Vice President Kamala Harris. Are you stepping in that line and endorsing the Vice President to take over the campaign and head into November?
Well, if the election was today, I think that Vice President Kamala Harris would be in the best position to take on Donald Trump, given her experience with the current president, given the infrastructure that she has in place, taking what President Joe Biden has given her. And, I think that we all want the best for the country. And, I've been doing this for a while, and it's my hope that we put together a ticket that could win, that the American people will see as the ticket that moves America forward. If it's Kamala Harris, it would be fantastic. She would be the first Black woman to lead America. But I think that we have to make sure that we get the right vice president and that we get the people behind whoever the person is. And I think the Democrats have the power to do that.
Well, and you kind of led into my next question here. Who is going to be the vice president to run with Kamala if indeed she does get that nomination through the DNC? We've heard a whole bunch of different names. Even Governor J.B. Pritzker's name's been floated here. Though I think recent polling shows that he's not as popular as some of the other choices there may be. But what would you like to see in a Democratic ticket?
Well, I definitely want to see a ticket that wins, a solid ticket that speaks to America, speaks to the Democratic values, and one that understands an inclusive America, one that will not turn back in time. We've come a long way in America as it relates to giving rights to the disenfranchised, and so we need a ticket that has a vision for being inclusive, moving forward. And if it's J.B. Pritzker, he's already proven that he understands how to be inclusive. He understands how to have a big tent and work with people. Maybe he will be the one that could be on the ticket. If not, I think he'll play a major role in helping elect the next president of the United States, and we hope that it's a Democrat.
State Representative Shawn Ford with us. Obviously, Republicans in Illinois already critical of this whole change up with the president announcing that he's not going to seek reelection and endorsing the vice president, Kamala Harris. Some people pointing to that law that was enacted by the governor preventing individuals from being on the November ballot if they weren't on the primary ballot. Understanding that law only impacts state house races, but I think people pointing to the spirit of that, saying that what's happening here is essentially what the Democrats in Illinois tried to make illegal by law.
Well, I think that Democrats that decided to run in the primary to make it to the general election, I think that's a solid path. And I think that's what it should be. I mean, you shouldn't come in the middle of the night to actually take on a candidate that actually primaried. Now, you look at a situation where you have a national race where Joe Biden was actually somewhat forced out for health reasons. This is totally different. And the people still have a choice. The Republicans have a Republican candidate. It's not as if they don't have a candidate. So there's no comparison. It's Democrats against Democrats and not Democrats against Republicans. The Republicans they never cease to amaze me how they always get what they want. And when they get it, they don't want it. He said they wanted Joe Biden to resign and not run for president because he was too old. They said only our old candidate should be running for president. Let our 80-year-old run, not your 80-year-old. Now they got their 80-year-old. We got our 59-year-old running for president, and we got our prosecutor, and we got our convicted felon, and they got their convicted felon. So here we go.
Representative, but to the question of democracy, right? I mean, a lot of back and forth about democracy at stake here. The Republicans, they had a primary, and they've got their candidates, and it was pretty unified at the RNC last week. I was there on the ground. But again, here we are, 100 some odd days before the election, and the Democrats still don't have that solidified now with the turmoil from Biden stepping down as the nominee. So again, the criticisms is that I'm hearing and I'm seeing in some of the statements that are put out that this is not democratic, that, millions of people voted for Joe Biden and now he's not going to be the candidate. How do you square that up?
Well, the Republicans knew that we might have to have a somewhat of a new process, or not a new process. Bishop, to think about it, it's not even a new process. This is something that is in writing for the Democrats and the Republicans to be able to do in the case of an emergency or in the case that the current presumptive nominee is not capable or willing to run again. There is a precedent for this. The difference is the Republicans are trying to mix apples and oranges. In the case of Illinois' lawsuit, where they're saying that they're not able to run against a Democrat in the general, in this case, they can run against the Democrat in the general, and the process allows for the replacement. This is not breaking the rules. And what I love about my Republican colleagues is they like to talk about rules and they like to follow the rules. In this case, they have a chance to follow the rules and let the Democrats actually put up the candidate, and they have a chance to defeat the candidate.
State Representative Shawn Ford next month is going to be fascinating, of course, with Democratic National Convention in Chicago with this new dynamic that's been put into the works. If you could, give us a bit of a preview of what you're hearing on the security side, especially with the prospect of protesters outside the convention parameter, which, if there's any indication, by the way, last week, the Republican National Convention, I couldn't even tell you how many different law enforcement agencies were involved with that, and the steel fence barricade all around the perimeter. A lot of walking. I chose the wrong shoes to attend that. But regardless, give us a bit of a preview of what you're hearing, and as far as when the security ramps up and how that's going to play out.
Yeah, Bishop, I think that it's so critical that we bring up this, going from our conversation about the Democrats having another presumptive nominee, because it's going to be critical that, one, we eliminate any type of chaos between Democrats at this convention, because that could cause pressures for law enforcement, because you can have turmoil amongst Democrats, and that could be taken to the streets, whereas individuals in our party start fighting and possibly causing looting and rioting in the streets. So I think that we as Democrats have to be strong moving into this to make our convention safer. And then we look at the other possibilities of protesters. I think that Chicago, the state, the county, and the federal government, they're all prepared to make this convention safe. And I feel confident that the mayor, the governor, the sheriff, and the federal government will keep Chicago safe, and the delegates and all those in attendance, including the press, at this convention.
And there's a lot of press out there. I kept hearing all last week there were more press than there were delegates on the ground. So it's rather fascinating. And we talked before about the convention. Was this your first convention?
No, actually, I've done a convention for Bernie Sanders, Barack Obama, and now
That's right.
I'm a delegate for Biden Harris, and I'm hoping that, we almost knew that we were going to have a smooth transition for Biden. I hope that Harris or whoever it might be will be able to get this wrapped up long before the convention so that we can be unified. Bishop, we may have to do an early vote anyway on the 7th to have our nominee in place by the 7th for Ohio.
Yeah, some interesting kind of inside baseball there as far as how this all works out. State Representative Shawn Ford, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us. We'll definitely connect again, probably before the convention next month, but definitely up in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. Greatly appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thank you, Bishop, and I hope you and your family's doing well.
Yep, absolutely. All right, it is Bye-bye. Illinois in Focus Daily, continuing on here, and we're going to get a Republican lined up to react to this. But while we anticipate that here, let's go ahead and look at the story at thecentersquare.com, where you can find the headline, Illinois political leaders react to Biden dropping out. And a lot of reaction was pouring in all throughout the day yesterday. And this, of course, comes after the Republican National Convention last week. And that was after former President Donald Trump had somebody try to take his life. And of course, Washington, D.C. is going to have a lot on their plate today as they continue to evaluate and investigate what happened with that assassination attempt. But even some saying that there needs to be an investigation into President Biden announcing that he's not going to be running for another term. But let's just go through this story here as we get our next guest lined up here. Illinois political leaders reacting to President Joe Biden announcing that he won't run for president and endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to be the Democratic Party's nominee. Biden made the announcement Sunday afternoon, saying the move is the best interest of my party and country. Continuing the quote, he says, "It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it's been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." Goes on to say that the Democratic National Convention, well, it's right around the corner. This definitely throws some uncertainty into it. But the president said, "My first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision he's made," he said. "Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of the party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." Governor J.B. Pritzker put out a statement yesterday, and noticeably absent was Harris's name. The governor put out a long statement, but here's just part of it. He said, "Perhaps most consequential, President Biden restored dignity to the Oval Office, bringing the statesmanship and honor that had been all the hallmarks of the years of service that he's had back to the White House." The governor, of course, has been speculated as somebody who is clearly, a political leader in Illinois, a billionaire, somebody who self-financed his own campaign. And is he going to run for office or not? A higher office? Is he going to seek the vice presidential spot or maybe the presidential spot? I mean, the fact that he didn't name Kamala Harris in his initial statement is interesting. And a lot of people pointing out that some others, notable people, including Barack Obama, didn't endorse Kamala Harris. But continuing on here, some other statements that were made. Illinois Republican Party Chair Kathy Salvi put out a statement saying Democrats are divided, torn apart by their own duplicity, trying to pass off President Biden's inability to fulfill his role, while Republicans stand united behind President Trump and an agenda of freedom, prosperity, and safety. Democrats have become the party of self-service, while Republicans have become the voice of this nation. So Kathy Salvi just now taking over the Republican Party in Illinois. And again, this comes all as the news cycle just ramps up more and more and gets more wild by the moment. But you can see also other statements. They're flooding in all over the place. U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth put out a statement saying the difficult decision ensures that Democrats can focus on the goal that unites each of us. Congresswoman Mary Miller, Republican, critical of Harris in her statement. She says that Harris led the Democrats' cover-up of Joe Biden's severe cognitive decline. Their donors only forced Biden out once they got caught. And she criticized Harris for how the border was handled. So let's continue getting some more reaction to this. We talked with Democratic State Representative Shawn Ford, who's a Biden delegate. We asked him about, the questions of how is this democratic if, you're switching candidates after millions of people voted for Joe Biden. So obviously a lot to unpack there, but let's now connect with Republican State Senator Jason Plummer to get his thoughts on this. Senator, thanks for taking time with us. I believe we've got you coming through with the audio and everything, so really do appreciate it. Your initial reaction here, what does this mean moving forward?
Well, it was a surprise, I think, for everybody. A lot of speculation about what was going to happen. But going forward, I think this is going to have a huge impact on the state of Illinois. Obviously, this is something that Governor Pritzker wants to pursue. You were just touching on the statements coming from various people in Illinois, and Governor Pritzker is one of those people who has not endorsed the Harris campaign yet. So this is going to impact Illinois in a big way, and I think we all need to hold Governor Pritzker accountable for his performance in office, and frankly, where has his focus been all these years?
So we talked with Representative Ford about that measure that gutted a DCFS bill, replaced it with the slating issue that's held up in the courts right now, the Illinois Supreme Court, and expected to look at this even further. But that only dealt with state house candidates, right? If somebody didn't run in the primary, they couldn't be put on the November ballot. But the spirit behind there is that. How do you square this? How do Democrats square this with what's going on the presidential ticket?
Well, it puts Illinois Democrats in a weird spot. I agree with you. The law that was passed and what's going on now, it's somewhat apples and oranges, but to the spirit of it, forget about the legislation. Let's just look at what Governor Pritzker had to say. And he said a process like this is unethical. We need to get rid of the backroom dealing, that the voters need to have a choice, that he would not support a process like this for legislative candidates. Well, we're effectively doing that for president of the United States now. So for Illinois State House or Illinois State Senate candidates, if it's unethical, if these backroom deals are terrible, what does it say when it's the president of the United States? Unfortunately, Greg, is a lot of people in Illinois know, this would not be the first time Governor Pritzker was hypocritical and threw away one set of beliefs just because it wasn't politically expedient here a few months later.
Senator, moving forward here, the Illinois Republican Party, of course, is in the minority, but do you see maybe a sea change of sorts? We had black leaders last week joining Republican Cook County State's Attorney candidate Bob Fioretti in urging voters to ditch Democrats in Chicago, saying that black people have not been treated well by Democrats. Is this something you see possibly, inching into the Democrat supermajority?
Well, I think, the pendulum swings back and forth politically sometimes. And, Illinois is not as near as blue as everyone likes to think. We just operate under extraordinarily gerrymandered maps. We have now for a couple political cycles. Governor Pritzker is a real reason why we've done that. I would argue this is another reason why he can't be trusted for higher office. He promised that he would not sign into law any backroom drawn gerrymandered maps, and he drew into law, or he signed into law, the worst gerrymandered map in the country. And that map is what's led to the polarization in Illinois, and it's led to
Senator, I think there you go. I think you muted yourself there for a brief moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, and he's the one that signed into law these very partisan maps that have made Illinois far more blue than it actually is. It's driven political polarization, and it's led to the public policies that have really harmed a lot of people in Illinois. We can talk about parts of Chicago that are economically distressed and crime-ridden. We can talk about parts of downstate Illinois that have the same exact problems. Governor Pritzker is all about politics, which has led to polarization and bad public policy. And I think people of all stripes in Illinois are frustrated with how Illinois is today. We're not performing like the state we should be performing.
Let's talk a little bit more about Governor Pritzker here. The fact that he didn't mention Harris in his initial statement after Biden announced he wasn't going to seek reelection. Do you think that he's, keeping his powder dry, as I've seen it characterized elsewhere?
Well, when you have so many prominent national Democrats jump on board very quickly and endorse the vice president, it really makes you wonder what the people who haven't done that are thinking. And I think everyone, and I've probably been one of the louder on it, we know that Governor Pritzker has no interest in being governor of Illinois. Illinois and people that live in Illinois are merely stepping stones to his desire for higher office. And he probably views this as his opportunity. So he's not going to endorse Kamala Harris. He's going to keep his powder dry, and he's going to angle to be a vice presidential nominee or perhaps even take it a little bit further. Obviously, the vice president has a lot of problems. There are a lot of people concerned about her abilities and to lead and her abilities to run a country like the United States. So maybe he takes it even further. Maybe he's not angling for VP. Maybe he wants a floor fight in Chicago, his state. So I don't think it's suspicious. I don't think it's, Governor Pritzker is in this for one person only. That's himself, and he doesn't care what national Democrats are going to tell him to do. He's a very ambitious guy, and the people of Illinois know that all too well.
When we talked with Representative Ford, he also indicated that, security is going to be tight, but he really thinks that there needs to be unity with the Democrats inside the convention hall to send that message out to those who may be protesting on the streets. How do you see this playing out? A lot of allusions to 1968 in Chicago, pretty pivotal moment in U.S. political history. But how do you feel that that this is going to play out? Is it going to be a reflection of the chaos from or however long that was?
Well, look, I think the National Democrats are probably doing the best that they can, and I know they're probably putting a tremendous amount of pressure on leadership in Chicago and Illinois to keep this convention as seemingly organized and happy and united as possible. But the reality is, people running Chicago and many of the people running Illinois are pretty incompetent. And if National Democrats expect them to be able to pull that off, I think they're going to be sorely mistaken. I think they're going to have a mess on their hands. You've got a lot of division within the Democrat Party. It's not as near as united as the Republican Party. And a lot of the folks that are going to be at that convention sure don't like the concept and sure aren't excited about the idea of the transfer from President Biden to whoever the next nominee is going to be. It's the antithesis of a democratic process. And I think they're going to express a lot of their frustration. And on top of the internal turmoil of the Democrat Party, a lot of their allies, whether it's the anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian groups, whether it's a lot of the other, the folks that caused a lot of issues during 2020 and 21, Antifa and all that, I think that they're all going to be there, and I think it's going to be a mess, Greg. And I don't say that with glee. I think it's embarrassing for the country.
State Senator Jason Plummer, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily, and we will definitely connect with you again in the near future, all right? All right, be safe out there. Of course, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning, keeping you posted on what you need to know to keep your day going. And if you go to thecentersquare.com, you can check out all of the headlines, including what we just talked about with Illinois political leaders reacting to Biden dropping out of the race, and so much more. So go check that out. It's Illinois in Focus Daily, here with America's Talking Network. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere at Bishop On Air.